Call the Thursday, April 2nd, 2020 work session to order. First item on the agenda item, March 19th work session. Any changes?
None.
And as written, next item on the agenda, Bickle Schmidt Sports Complex Southwest Quad Playground Shelter. Award a bid.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Boyle, Director of Parks. Here this evening to talk about the Bickle Schmidt Sports Complex Playground Shelter. In 2018, the City Commission approved a joint project with the Hayes Recreation Commission. It involved a playground equipment and a fabric-topped structure. It didn't begin until 2019 due to weather and other circumstances, but right about the time it got completed, we had the August 13th windstorm that rolled through, and it literally completely destroyed the fabric on top of the structure, and it bent all the poles on the framework. This is another picture of it. We did have some damage to the northeast quad as well on a similar structure, so there was no reported wind gust that exceeded the warranty on the structure. The warranty was for 90-mile-an-hour winds. There was no reported wind gusts that high. However, not only did this structure receive damage, the northeast quad received damage, and it was pretty significant on the northeast quad as well. So maybe we had some winds out there that did exceed 90. I don't know, but the structure's not holding up. It just didn't hold up. The one on the northeast quad, we've always had some problems with it as well. Not to this extent, but we have had several tops on it on the northeast quad rip. So quite honestly, I think for that complex, I don't think we need to do any more of these metal framed fabric top structures. The ones that are lower to the ground are holding up well. These taller ones just don't seem to be cutting the mustard out there. So we did receive insurance money. We received the contractor did not charge us for the remaining $2,100 that was on the purchase order. That money was out of special parks that the city used to pay for the original playground and playground shelter. So they did not charge us for the remaining $2,100. We did put that money back into special parks. Then they sent us a check for $5,575, and that went into the Park Improvement Fund. And then insurance paid the remaining. They gave us $95.93, which is a little more than actually the shelter cost us, but that was to cover some demolition costs that we had to do in-house, and the removal of the actual structure itself required us getting a crane in there. So there was we were given a little bit more money than the structure actually cost. So in looking at this, we decided why even look at going back with a similar structure? Why don't we build something that's gonna last a long time? So we sent requests for bids out for a wooden or metal frame structure with metal roof and, as you can see here, a 4-foot metal strip on the sides. The main purpose of this to begin with was to protect the children from flying baseballs and also to keep them, help keep the temperatures down on a sunny day. But that was the main reason, was for the fly balls. So of all the bids that we received, QSI was the lowest. This is option 1 that they provided, and it's $32,560. In discussing this with the various companies, adding a 4-foot sheathed corner on each corner of the structure actually helps keep it from, even in not high winds, helps keeping it from shifting at all. And their recommendation for a structure that tall is to go ahead and do that. And here's a second option from QSI for $34,170. Now that's significantly more than we have available. The total, if counting the special park money that was returned to the account, the check for $55.75, and the insurance money, we have about $17,268.91 to use towards this. So we would have to use an additional $16,901.09 from the Bickelschmidt Sports Complex 2020 budget in order to pay for this structure. We've already identified several savings in that budget, so we're very confident that we can use this money to build this structure and still get by for the year. So, especially depending on when the complex opens, our electric bill could be quite significantly less than it normally is. But we'll have to see how long this pandemic goes on. So anyway, we feel this structure here is actually rated for 125 mile an hour winds. The previous structure is rated for 115 mile an hour winds. So theoretically, the first option one would probably work, but I think for long term, I think this structure here, based on what the engineers are telling me from these various companies, this is a better way to go with those sheathed corners from a structural standpoint. And the footprint of that is, I can't remember, actually 32 by 56. 40 by 56. So it's a large unit. It's not a small building by any size, by any means. That's what's required for us to maintain our fall zone distances off the playground equipment. So we, like at the end of the slide, we have to have a minimum of 6 foot all the way around. That's the size building that would be required in order to follow those rules. Again, I mentioned all the bids we got. We got 2 bids from QSI. We got one from RDH Electric, got one from Cleary Building Corporation, and one from Park Planet. The Park Planet was a very classy metal framed, as you can tell by the price. Of course, we'd love to have that, but that is not feasible for what we're doing. So, as I mentioned, we do like the option 2 from QSI. I think that's the best way to go. And this would be the motion if you guys are okay with moving it forward next week. Again, I had to spell out the various budgets because the 2100 did go into special parks. I was hoping to pull that back out for this. The $15,168.91 is a combination of the check from Riggs Recreation and Insurance Company. And then, of course, the $16,901.09 from the 2020 Bickelschmidt Sports Complex budget. That's how we'd propose that we pay for it.
Jeff, I have a question. 5-10 years down the road, if we decide that we want to put some stuff like this over the bleachers, is either one of these, would you think would match up better, or could you basically do the same kind of structure?
It's funny you said that because the actual company that bid me the lowest quote on estimating the structures you're talking about is QSI. So it would be the exact same type of structure you're seeing here if we went that route, and assuming they're low bid.
Option 1 or 2, though.
They would be more similar to option 1. Yeah, and they're not going to be as tall either, so we'd probably be okay with that on the bleachers and dugouts. They would only have, I think it's a 14-foot sidewall. This has a 16-foot sidewall.
And it's just for one. There's 2 playgrounds out there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just talking about one structure for one playground.
This is one structure for one playground. The other one, the insurance gave us money for, and it's being repaired.
Was the playground equipment damaged in any way? So we're talking about the netting and all that. Have we had to repair the equipment?
No, there was no damage done to the equipment at all, or the fall zone material. It was only the structure that received damage.
My other question with the structure, I believe, I was out there last summer, the way it was netted, or the canopy, there was netting on the sides too. Will this structure have netting?
It will not have
Open
netting.
spaces?
It will not have netting. And actually, in visiting with Roger and several other folks, that netting might not be required at all on that northeast quad either. So we might review that again. And I think we were overcautious when the facility was built, and I think that eventually that netting can just go away because
The fences you shouldn't have.
right. The way the balls are falling at that point, there's zero chance of them taking a direct shot in there. So,
And there's no need for like electrical outlets or lighting or anything like that?
We are looking at lighting on the side during the project. I think we can get it done pretty cheap because the electric's right beside it. So I think we can make that lighting happen while we're doing the structure itself.
Do that more in-house or
It would be a contractor, but the estimates were pretty darn cheap, $800 and some dollars, if I remember right, for putting 2 LED lights in it.
I'm comfortable with it as long as you know that the budget will handle it. I think it looks great, and I do like option 2. I think that makes the most sense.
Well, I like option 2, but if we decide to do it over the bleachers, isn't it going to look kind of funny if it doesn't match up?
I don't think those, to me, putting, like 4-foot sides or whatever you're talking about, is still going to look the same, except the legs will just be wider.
Right.
Right.
On the corners, yes.
Right.
I-
Otherwise, it would look the same.
And Mayor Musil, we could easily have those put on the dugout bleacher covers if that's what's decided.
Well, that's probably going to be a few years, but to
Right.
me, it just look better if it matches. But I like option 2 also. I really do.
But that can easily be, if it ever happens, we can easily do that.
so if it goes over the structure, if anybody's, I guess, watching, like this dirt and grass area, because it'll be more square.
We're filling that in with concrete. Yep. You're talking about the turf that's outside. Yeah. Yes, that'll be.
Well, that canopy, I mean, you can fit to that turf. Well, this is going to be very square, and if it's not filled in, it's going to.
Right. Yeah. Our intent is to do the whole area around it in concrete.
How does it hold up against hail?
We've got several of these structures around town, and as of right now, none of them have any dents from hail or anything. So it's the same. Actually, I think it's a little thicker metal material than you'd put on a house or a barn. Now, as far as a baseball or a softball, I don't know. I'm sure that's going to take a few dings, but the options, asphalt shingles or wooden shingles or stuff like it's going to do the same thing. So they'll get beat up. We'll end up replacing the roof. So
You see these kind of structures at quite a few of the complexes throughout
Yeah.
the state.
right.
And I take it we have a good warranty with this then, with the building?
There is a good warranty, yes, and the posts are all treated. The posts are 60-year, I want to say. So yeah, I don't remember the. I'll have that information next week, but the structure itself has a very good warranty on it.
So do we want to move
Say
both
move on.
options on, or how do you want to do it for next week?
I think option 2 is far
Option
as I'm
2, yeah.
concerned, because we put it up, let's put it up the best we can.
Agreed. Option 2.
Burgess, you good with that? Okay, move on option 2 on to next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Public Works Generator, award a bid.
We need a trumpet or something. Blow.
Grand entrance. Good evening, Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. So a couple bids I'd like to discuss with you tonight for consideration. The first being a bid for a new generator and automatic transfer switch for the Public Works facility. So the 2020 budget did include money for the replacement of our generator out there. And the current generator was actually purchased in '99. It was a pre-Y2K purchase in the event the grid system went down, and we thought we had to have this. So that time they got a generator and didn't have it budgeted, so they found a used 1978 model, and it still works today. However, the age is starting to show, and so it's currently 42 years old, and there's a picture of it here on the screen. It does run the entire Public Works facility. At the time when power does go down, we have used it on an emergency basis several different times. And of course, it's also run often just, we kick everything over to generator mode just for testing as well. So this unit does not have an automatic switching capability, so it does require manual startup by staff. The new one is bid to have an automatic transfer switch, so it'll automatically start the unit up whenever backup power is called for. So pictured here is the proposed generator with a weather-tight enclosure. And then this is just the same generator, but with the weather-tight enclosure removed just for visual purposes. It does have a diesel motor with onboard fuel tank. It's got a 133-gallon fuel tank that'll run the generator for at least 24 hours before refueling is required. Hopefully we don't have to run it for 24 hours, but we have the capability if we need to. It does have a 2-year or 2,000-hour warranty, whatever comes first. And I did mention, not only do we run it on a monthly basis, as well as our generators in the city, but we also have annual testing and maintenance performed by a separate contract on all city generators, just to make sure they're all in proper working order. There were 3 qualified bids. We were pleased to get the 3 bids. All bidders are licensed electricians with the City of Hayes. The low bid was from Don's Electric and Rewind in the amount of $29,977. That particular bid had a lead time of 10 to 12 weeks on the generator, which is very typical for this sort of equipment. That would be pending any unforeseen delays based on our current events now. As I mentioned, this was included in the 2020 budget. We had budgeted $35,500, so this is just over $5,500 under the budgeted amount. And these will be the options moving forward next week, and the action requested if it is indeed moved forward. So with that, I take any questions you might have.
Just see the other models from the other bidders. Is that right? Is that word, bidders? Is it the same brand or?
They were all 3 different brands actually. We didn't bid brand specific, but we did bid the capacity, a 60 kW minimum capacity. All of them met the spec. They're all probably great models. The MTU model that RDH has, we have one of those at the airport. The airport terminal was put in a little over a year ago, but we've got different brands, and there's no reason. We had, like I say, we looked them over, and no reason to believe that the Kohler model. It's a very well-known brand as well.
Do we have any like that now currently?
I don't know. I know the last 2 or 3 were not Kohler models. I know we have at least 2 of the MTU. We have about there's 3 generators at the airport, 1 at City Hall, Public Works, wastewater, water treatment plant, and then we have some portable generators, large ones for sewer lift stations. So we've got probably a dozen or more of them around, different varieties of different brands.
Jesse, on this, this is, I see you sized 25% greater than what we need now. On that runtime, is that at current capacity? In other words, we're 25% less than what we would need. Is that 24-hour runtime running it at our capacity that we need now with that 133 gallons, or is that at the?
That would be at max capacity.
That's at max.
So,
Okay.
so in theory, you should be able to run it for well over 24 hours.
That's what I was.
Our peak right now is about 42 kW. That's a hot summer day with air conditioning running, and like I say, we had Midwest Energy go back a couple years, and we worked with them to make sure we were sized correctly. The current unit is a 60 kW, but before we bid it out, we wanted to make sure we were speccing it right. And when they put that one in, they obviously must have checked as well and put it in the right size, and we're still at that, so we have room for growth as well.
Because sometimes they fool you and say that runtime, but that's not running, at decent capacity.
Right.
Just having the thing turned on.
Yeah, we don't want to
Also,
run it
will
for
this-
idle times.
Will this be bolted down, or is this just going to sit there?
It is. They are bolted down. There's a slab there currently. It'll bolt to the existing slab. Like I say, the automatic transfer switch and all the electrical components will be reworked. That was all part of the bid as well.
That sounds good.
How many hours does I know it's 40-some years old. Do we know how many hours are on that generator?
I don't know. I'll look and see if it's got an hour meter on it. If so, I'll let you know next week what that has on it. But
The other generators around town, Are they scheduled to be replaced at any?
I don't know that
future?
any are. The other facilities, like say the three at the airport are generally pretty new. The terminal one was done last year. The ARF, the fire station at the airport, was done when that building was new. The other one at the shop at the airport that runs the runway lights and everything, that's probably within 10 years or so. And of course, the one at the wastewater treatment plant is less than a year old. And so I think we're in pretty good shape. Even the one at City Hall, I think, was replaced 5 or 6 years ago or so. And this is by far the oldest one that we have by any stretch. So
What are we doing with this one since it still works?
this will probably go on to auction like we do similar equipment.
On a purple wave or whatnot?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Probably big demand for a 78 generator.
You know, we were surprised. The one at the wastewater treatment plant.
Some people come up from Georgia or
Really?
Comes with a vintage tag, right?
That's right. You know, you can tag it as an antique, I guess. So, that's right.
Moving on. Yep. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 2020 sidewalk projects.
Okay, for this item, I'd like to present some bids for some various areas of sidewalk placement that were part of the 2020 special highway projects. So a little recap on the various special highway funds before we get into the sidewalk. This slide shows how we had recommended spending the various funds that we had budgeted for 2020 out of special highway. And we showed this back in December when we came to you, and then again late February when we came to you for the various other special highway projects other than the sidewalk. So this slide, a lot on here, but I want to focus on the highlighted area. This should also be familiar to you. So it was shown when we awarded the bids for the various street maintenance programs back in the end of February. So the highlighted sections, the first one there does show the amount that was budgeted for sidewalk program. Of the $51,200, $5,000 of that was actually earmarked for the residential and commercial sidewalk replacement program, leaving $46,200 for various sidewalk projects. And I do want to point out too that after all the projects, based on the bids that were given, there was just under $81,000 left for the unforeseen things that might come up throughout the various projects over the course of the year. So I mentioned we had $46,200 identified from special highway funds for the construction of sidewalk, and we had 4 different areas that we had come up with for projects. So here's the 4 projects. The first one here is an area on West 27th Street near Augusta Lane. Then we'll jump over here to East 27th Street. This would be kind of the bridge over Chatola, right in that area. There's a short stretch with no sidewalk. Project 3, what we're calling Project 3, was there's 2 areas down on Elm Street near Lewis Field. They're both on the east side of Elm. One kind of right where Elm and Ash meet, and then one a little bit farther north on 3rd Street. So they're about a half a block apart or so. Projects, and then Project 4 is on Canterbury. There's about 4 properties right there. It kind of skips a couple where there's some sidewalk areas missing as well. Projects 1 and 3, are the largest of the 2 projects, or the 4 projects. So again, just a recap of the 4. I mentioned the Project 1 with the image here. So this would be west of the Eagle Business Plaza. Project 2, East 27th, and you can see that gap there. You can see the sidewalk on both the right and left side of the picture there. So it's a relatively small area. And then Project 3, the 300 block of Elm. And then Project 4, the Canterbury. Here's one of the lots there, one of the residential lots.
This is where you have to remove trees.
There is no tree removal for any of this.
Project
There are
3.
on Canterbury, on hit the wrong button here. No, there is room. There's plenty of room for the standard width sidewalk. We will bump it out in a couple places where there's some utility poles or utility pedestals. And on the Canterbury project, if we do that project, there's a couple mailboxes that will have to be moved back a little bit. We've talked with the post office about them, and they have no issue. it's hand delivery now, so they have no issue with those mailboxes. So, but no tree removal for any of the projects. So bids were open March 17th. We did receive bids from 3 different bidders. The bids highlighted here were the low bids for each of the projects, and they are in order of the West 27th, Project 1, 2, 3, and 4. The total of all bids was just over $66,000. After evaluating the bids, staff is recommending staying within the $46,200 that was identified to be spent out of special highway, and accept the proposals from Dustin Hines Construction for Project 1, which is the West 27th near Augusta Lane project, and Morgan Brothers for Project 3, who was the low bidder for the Project 3, which is the Elm Street project down by Lewis Field. As I mentioned, these 2 projects are the largest of the 4 and are what we consider the highest priority. They get the most traffic. However, saying that, I want to make sure that you know that obviously the commission could approve a different combination of projects if you so choose. So again, what the 2 being recommended would be Project 1, the West 27th Street stretch here, and then Project 3, Elm Street down by Lewis Field.
Jesse, our sidewalk program, is there a large utilization of that?
There is actually, and some years more than others. We've had as high as 10 to 12,000 per year. We've had a couple years as low as 2,500. I think we're hanging right in that 4 to 4,500 range, which is a good number. It's a good. I mean, we get a lot of sidewalk. When we're paying essentially the cost of the concrete. We have a minimum square foot cost for that, and for even $5,000, you can get a lot of sidewalk done out of that program. So it's still a utilized program. We push it, and our inspectors and staff, they inform people all the time of that program if they see someone doing sidewalk or a driveway. So
Very good, thank you.
still very popular.
And we're taking 5,000 of that budget is for that.
That's correct. Of the 51.2 that was
Right.
budgeted, 5,000 is for that.
And you're suggesting 1 and 3, correct?
1 and 3 is what we're suggesting. Be action requested, and like I said, if you see other combinations of projects,
That'll leave us about 34,000 then in special highway funds for any cost overruns for 20.
no, this was already at they're still that
Still got that 80.
that 51.2 was
Okay.
identified before, so we still have the 80,000 give or take in there, right?
Okay.
Right. So we're not pulling that out of that balance.
Okay, I want
so.
to make sure that, okay, thank you.
When are you expecting to do projects 2 and 4 then?
Well, there's probably a couple options. Either we would include them in next year's sidewalk project, assuming we have special highway money available for it. Another thing we've considered, if towards the fall, after we get some of the street maintenance projects completed out of the special highway, it's our intent to spend that money down that was budgeted for those projects. And if there's monies left of that approximately 80,000 that's left now, and if we can do it within that, that's another option as well. Obviously, the bids themselves may be expired by that time, but we can always go back to the contractors and ask if they would honor bids. At that time, it would not necessarily have to come back to the commission. Those would be both under the city manager's spending authority as well. So if we had the monies and they're budgeted, we could do those projects yet this year also.
I have the most contact with anybody on the Project 1 on 27th Street. There's a lot of young families live over in that area and walking to the grocery store and so forth. And that's the only one I've really had any contact from citizens on. So I'm pleased to see that one being done.
Yeah, that's what I hear about too.
I think the consequence of everybody being sheltered and out walking, we're gonna hear more and more about which sidewalks need to
Yeah.
be repaired. I've heard a few comments on.
I've started my own list.
Moving on.
Moving on.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Melick.
All I can say is everybody do your part in keeping everyone else safe.
Burgess.
I'd say the same thing. That's all I got for at this time. There's a lot going on, but just do your part to stay safe and keep the safety of others in mind.
Commissioner Reuter?
Agreed. Everybody stay safe and keep up with all the guidelines set forth by KDHE and the CDC.
Mr. Jacobs?
Stay inside. Think of your grandparents if you're not thinking of yourself.
Absolutely. I echo everything you guys are saying, and please think of your community, people. We're adjourned.